Hi, would you like to set up a behavior chart for your child? In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to set up the goals for a behavior chart. And then I have two other videos, one talking about the rewards and one talking about how to follow through on the plan. So when you're setting up a chart, one of the things you want to do is you want to keep the wording positive. So that, for instance, instead of saying, "Don't tease your sister," you would say, "Use kind and polite words." If you're trying to have a child work on stopping arguing, you want to ask them to work on accepting no for an answer. So you want to think about how to phrase it in a positive way. That's going to tie into some things that we'll talk about when we're talking about how to encourage and remind children to stay on task with their chart. Another thing that you want to do is to set up that positive language in a way that replaces the old problem behavior with a new behavior that you're trying to reward your child for learning to do. So that would mean that you're thinking about what it really means, what the behavior means, and what do you really want them to do instead of that problem behavior. That really sets up a positive approach where you're teaching the child what you want them to do. So an example for this would be if your child argues a lot with you when you tell them no to a request that they've made, that you're asking the child to accept no for an answer. And that might mean by looking at you, saying okay, and then moving on with whatever the other activities are of the day rather than continuing to focus on what you said no about. So then the goal might be accepts no, and maybe underneath it you might have even a little more information which says okay and moves on. So that would be a way to focus on what is it you want your child to do instead of that problem behavior that you're trying to get rid of, which is, say arguing or throwing a tantrum when you say no. Another thing that you want to do is to try to make the goal only moderately difficult to achieve and to set it up using the right time period. Now by that I mean that we don't want the goal to be so difficult that there's no chance that the child can ever earn the reward that you're establishing for the goal. So we want it to be challenging in that they need to work on it to achieve it, but not so difficult that they'll never do it. So again, if we use the example of arguing, if you have a young child who's arguing kind of incessantly all day long, you don't want to set up the goal that if they don't argue all day long, that's the only way that they can earn a reward. You might have time periods. So this, for instance, shows an example. The different colors on this shows a time period for morning, afternoon, and evening, and you might rate the child on those time periods. And then maybe they'd get 1 or 2 rather than 0. Or a really young child, you might even rate them hourly if you could. Or for an older child or adolescent who maybe has better behavioral control, you might just rate them once a day. So you want to make it moderately difficult in terms of the time period and how the goal is set up, so that you're seeing improvement but not perfection. Okay? We don't want the child to get so discouraged that they don't even try, that it's just not realistic for them in any way. So stay tuned because there's 2 other videos, one on how to set up your reward system and the third on how to follow through on your plan. And thanks for stopping by. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. My name is Barbara Lester. I've worked with hundreds of children and adolescents. And if you're interested in more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, which is ASD Specialist.